Hello, and welcome back to another episode of SimCity 2000. In this episode, we will be rebuilding from the damage we sustained in the last episode. So, as you can see me doing here, the first thing we're going to do is rebuild all of the streets, as that's probably the most important thing to do right away, just so that we can reestablish traffic and that the zoned areas have a place to build off of. And as you can see, trying to figure out what went where before it all got destroyed. Obviously the buildings that we placed down, like fire stations and schools, need to be placed down again, but of course it's a little hard to remember what was there since we don't get any indicator, so I sort of have to guess. Now we had two areas that were affected. We had that part of the city and then that little industrial area. So the industrial area will just fix itself up real quick, where our main concern is over here. So we have most of the roads, well, all of the roads connected back up. And so our next priority is to get power back through here, as the fires did destroy the power lines that went across the roads. So we just need to make sure all of these blocks are connected back up to power so that they can continue to grow back. So you can see it's already filling in nicely just while I'm doing this. Some areas will take some time, so we can only do so much before we just have to let it take care of its own. But this little disaster wasn't too devastating. Luckily we were able to just quickly put everything back together. And then once I make sure that everything is okay, maybe take the chance to build some new parks and entertainment that might have been destroyed previously. Once we get that done, we can continue filling in the rest of the map. Here you see me trying to figure out what to place here, since I don't entirely remember what it was. So I just assumed it was a school, since I didn't see one in the immediate area. But I feel like we have enough services that it doesn't really matter too much what we place there. So now we're letting that build up. We're going to continue expanding. So as you can see, I kind of noticed that some of these areas out here are struggling to fill in, and I believe that's mostly due to the fact that they aren't close enough to residential, such as the case here, or commercial, such as the case on the other side of the river. So there, I was just trying to take advantage of every possible square we can reach. Trying to think about what to do. And so I take the opportunity to just continue working on this area over here. I feel like adding industrial's a good way to provide jobs for all the new residents coming in, and then putting commercial in close by. So all of the space over here is going to mainly get filled in with low density commercial and residential. And obviously we're taking the time to make sure that all of those new zones have access to power and water, as some of them still haven't filled in, so we need to make sure that we cater to those areas. So all of this new commercial should help us finish up filling in those residential areas. There was a quick crash there. Luckily we have enough firefighters at this point where that's not a problem, and we spotted it right away so that the fire didn't get out of control. The last thing we need is another huge disaster that completely devastates part of the map. So I don't want to fill every square with something, so I decided that this corner might be nice to sort of pretend that it's like a larger park or like a national park and just fill it with trees as much as possible. Make it a nice dense forest. Since SimCity 2000 doesn't really have grass, it is nice to fill in the area with a little bit more green to make it feel more natural than the sort of sandy desert texture that we get. But here we see these areas filling out quite nicely. A lot of those areas that weren't filled in before are starting to fill in, and the ones that aren't are usually just doesn't have access to services. So now I'm going to address the other side of the river where this commercial area wasn't growing in, and we're just going to fill that with residential. And hopefully that will cause those commercial spaces to fill in. So now while we wait for that to fill in and get comfortable, just double checking everywhere else around the city. I do want to start getting to some endgame stuff, which I believe we unlock around 120,000 population. So you're going to see me checking a bunch of these graphs, just making sure we're on track. You can see our current population there was 101,000. We've sort of been stagnant around that for the past few episodes. So, because there's not really anywhere else we can build, or at least anywhere smart that we can build and fill in, I'm going to start upgrading some of these low density residential to high density residential, just so we can get above that sort of population threshold, and then we can get to the end game stuff. But I have no doubt that just the few areas that we add will get us there once they are fully populated and grown in. Especially because all three of our demands are at their highest, so anything that we zone should fill in almost instantly. Here I'm just trying to think of other areas we can demolish and upgrade, because I do like how the low density areas look. I don't want to take away from them too much to be able to provide like a suburban feel to the city. You know, you just don't want to see an apartment building on every square of the map. So it's nice to have variety, but obviously the only way to get more population is more density. So we'll do our best to sort of grow that out organically, so we don't have random patches of high density in the middle of nowhere. So now we're just going to let that fill in as we work on another patch of the city. I feel like this area here is pretty nice as it's right next to the stadium, so it would make sense for it to be higher density than maybe the surrounding areas. So just checking everything, making sure it's growing in nicely, everything's working fine. Traffic is getting a little dense in some areas, but it's at no point where it's an issue yet. As we wait for those areas to finish growing in, and that'll pretty much be it for this episode. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.